Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words. Today for our midweek meta deck, we are playing the deck that just won the Eternal Weekend North America event. This is about a 1,000 player legacy event. It's one of the big tentpole legacy events of the year. And the event was taken down by Tom Basketball playing this Karn Forge deck. So you've seen Karn Forge deck a bunch on the channel. This build has a couple of interesting things going on. So we are just a 60 card list, not the 61 card with the extra land in the Caracas. This also doesn't run any main deck Ugins, which is kind of unusual, and it only has 3 Tezzerets, and it has the one of Basalt Monolith, which you don't always see. So we've seen this deck before, we know what it does. We generate a bunch of mana, and then we have lots of payoffs for that mana. So the way we're generating a lot of mana is Planar Nexus plus Urza's Tower. These two lands create 4 mana between them. Urza's Workshop can tap for loads, depending on how many Urza lands you have. And Planar Nexus counts as one of those Urza lands. We even have Ancient Tomb. We've got Candelabra, so we can untap our lands that tap for multiple things, and we can get this off of our Urza Saga, which is also one of our wing conditions, which works underneath a Null Rod. We've got ourselves the One Ring, obviously the most busted thing in this deck. This card is bananas. We all know that. We have the Mystic Forge as well. We only have 2 in the main deck and then 1 in the sideboard here. Karn is one of our great payoffs because we can just go and get things like the Mycosynth Lattice to lock the game out, Paradox Engine so we can just tap our things basically as much as we want, Ensnaring Bridge to hide behind, Liquid Metal Coating to basically lock the game out super early. If we can get like a turn 1 Karn, then just Liquid Metal Coating, our opponent just doesn't get to play the game. Disruptor Flute is like another Pithing Needle effect to complement the one in the main deck, and then a Tormod's Crypt for Graveyard Hate. We can also funnel a bunch of mana into Kozilek's command to find one of our win conditions, and this is a win condition if we have a Fleshraker in play. So a very efficient deck where all of our stuff is either mana or a must counterplay, right? The way we beat counter spells is just keep playing Haymaker after Haymaker after Haymaker after Haymaker until our opponent loses. If you would like to see this deck in action, you can look at the Card Titan channel on Twitch, and it will have the coverage of the event, the Eternal Weekend, so you can have a watch of that if you want to see Tom Basketball win the finals and all that sort of jazz. All right. Let's get stuck in and grind some people up with our terrifying monocolourless deck, I should say. Let's go. If you've been watching my content and thinking, I'd like to play some Legacy too, then check out 3for1 Trading, one of Europe's leading Magic the Gathering retailers. They have weekly offers and upload new cards every Wednesday. And it's not just Legacy stuff they sell. They have a beautiful selection of vintage and old school cards too. Support from sponsors like 3for1 Trading make it possible for me to put out videos and help keep Legacy alive, so why not give them some love? Click their link in the description below and use my code COW3 to enjoy free worldwide shipping on your first order over €500. Our opener isn't quite what we're looking for, I don't think. We can play a very slow Urza Saga game, but given the pace of Legacy these days, it doesn't feel great. Now, if we were to draw, let's say, an Urza's Tower, this hand obviously goes wild. I'm just not convinced I want to keep a hand that doesn't necessarily do anything for quite a few turns, so I'm going to mulligan this. What does this hand do? Like, it does interact a little bit earlier because we have a Saga Lantern that we can rely on, and we have a Portable Hole. This can go and get us a Mox Diamond to go with these two things, so that which can ramp us up in mana. We can play an Urza Saga game. I think we're going to keep this one. It's still not impressive. And I think we're going to put back the Karn here. We're going to sort of lean into the Tezzeret a little bit. So if we just play out this Planar Nexus and drop this Saga Lantern. So something I've said about these Mystic Forge decks ever since they first arrived on the scene ages ago was that when they have a turn 1, or when they have an opening hand that has a Grim Monolith, then they feel so much more powerful. So our opponent is probably on the Lone Pox deck, which also top 8'd the event, which is pretty cool, and I'm definitely going to have this on the channel at some point soon. I wonder what this Pithing Needle names. Presumably One Ring or Karn? Okay, they name Karn. This Saga Lantern will have text in this matchup. Okay, so I'm going to play this as a Saga out. I could take out this Pithing Needle if I want to turn the Karn on. I don't think we're doing that. We can use the Portable Hole to take out something like a Mox Diamond or an Orcish Bowmasters. Obviously, the timing with the Orcish Bowmaster will be difficult because our opponent gets to play instant speed. So our opponent's way of winning this game is going to be mana denial, which, considering we kept a 2-lander, is a reasonable way to get through what we're putting down. I think this Lone Pox deck also won a challenge this weekend as well. Small Pox. Yeah, it's a toughie. I think we are getting rid of... It's probably the Portable Hole and our Urza Saga. We don't need to keep a land that's going to blow itself up anyway. This gives us the option of just drawing into a Urza's Tower, and then we can pretty much just win the game from there. We did not draw into the Urza's Tower. Do we hold this? I think we do hold this so that if we can get Fleshraker, we can get some more mana. It's going to be about resources and the amount of resources we can amass in this matchup rather than trying to dodge certain things necessarily. So we're pretty much stone cold dead to a Wasteland here. I'll cycle the Saga Lantern if we get Wastelanded. If our opponent's playing the list from the Eternal Weekend top 8, then they're going to have Hogak, which is something we need to be aware of, which makes the Saga Lantern slightly higher priority to keep around. I think we're probably going to crack this anyway, to be fair. We're about to get hit by Bowmasters. I don't think we have the space to play around that. There it is. I think we had to keep it back in case there was some graveyard shenanigans. And then they get to ping us with the Bowmasters. I think we're going to lose this particular game, but we can always bounce back in the next game. So we can play this 2-2, which can block these things relatively effectively. Like the Bowmaster's not going to be able to come in. But then what are we doing? I think we just need to hold out for the ability to play Fleshraker and then dump both these petals in and all of a sudden get a bunch more resources that we didn't have before. This clock isn't the fastest. It's going to be a few turns, like 3 turns? But if they wasteland us, we can just scoop. This exact matchup was on the coverage of the Eternal Weekend at one point as well. At least that I saw. It's a fun matchup. Another hatchery for our opponent there. This means they can kind of smallpox without really losing anything. Thoughtseize, you got it. So they probably take the Fleshraker here because that's the way we're trying to jump up on resources. They could take the One Ring just so we don't get a fog at any point, because we could just draw the tower and have an immediate burst of mana here. But I think we're in a lot of trouble, and we have been since turn 2. Oh, it took the Kozilek's command. That's interesting. Do something with their graveyard. Malevolent Rumble. Yep, so if they can find a Hogak in the top cards, they can chuck it in the bin and get an 8-8. No Hogak there. They got another hatchery. Okay, so we're still in this one, potentially. If we draw Urza's Tower, then it becomes a real game. Not an Urza's Tower. We can Expedition Map and go and get an Urza's Tower for next turn. So what we can do next turn is we can play one Lotus Petal, crack this, then we play the Urza's Tower, and then we can play the One Ring. But we're certainly under some pressure here. And the One Ring, you know, it's going to draw some cards, but it's also going to draw the ire of this Bowmaster. What have you got over there? Boseiju for our land, perhaps? They don't have a Wasteland in the bin, so I'm not super scared about a Life from Loam just yet. With a Bloom command. I guess we don't have to concede right now, but we'll probably concede after we draw one more card. Alright, there's a Wasteland. Now we can concede. Okay. Not the best start. The Mana Denial deck against the big mana deck. We know how this works. So, what do we have that we don't actually like in our deck? I think our deck is just going to kind of power through what our opponent's doing. So there are some options. We could play Leyline of the Void to shut down Hogak, which is like one of the scarier things our opponent can do. This can also shut down Life from the Loam, which is the recurring Wasteland lock that I'm really not interested in having to worry about. I think I just want to Disruptor Flute in the main as an additional way of naming Wasteland. So it goes alongside the Pithing Needle. And I think the Saga Lantern is enough to deal with the graveyard. We have this, we can get off the Tezzeret as well. This is also graveyard hate in the form of the K command. So we've got 4 keys and 3 Tezzerets. So we have a reasonable amount of untappability going on here. So I'm going to get rid of the Candelabra here, because our opponent's going to be going after our lands quite a bit, so they might not be tapping for 2, so this could just be dead weight. And we just turn this into something that's going to try and stave off Wastelands. So this is going to be one of those games where if we get one of our engines set up, like one of our big 4-drop payoffs, we almost certainly win the game. But if we get stopped from doing that, then our opponent should be able to grind us out. Because what we're doing is more powerful than what our opponent's doing. Because this is kind of more powerful than pretty much most of the stuff in the format. Because, you know, these cards are pretty ridiculous. However, our opponent has the ability to stop us ever leveraging our game plan. So it's kind of quite an interesting little balance between what our decks are trying to do. Alright. Okay, yeah, we probably win this game. Because we have turn 1, One Ring. And, yeah. I don't know how many games I've lost with the turn 1, One Ring, but I would imagine it is less than 5. Probably less than 1, to be honest with you. Grim Monolith, please. So there is a decision that we have to make here. If we play the key out and our opponent has Force of Vigor, we don't get to play the One Ring this turn, right? We play the key out, we tap this for 3 mana, we go to untap it, then they blow them both up. So I think the correct play here is actually just to make the One Ring this turn, because that can't be Force of Vigored. It just plays around the one way that our opponent can get through what we're doing. And then we can worry about the key next turn. Our opponent can't make us discard cards with Thoughtseize because we have protection with the One Ring. So we can just use this key next turn, untap a bunch of stuff. And our opponent is pretty done here, I think. Pox decks really hate recursive card advantage engines like this, and Planeswalkers is another thing they don't like to play against, because I've played a lot of Pox on the channel. So I know how it goes. Let's fire these things off. Not the most impressive. Okay, let's play this one out. I'll play this Pithing Needle on Wasteland. I think that's our opponent's best option here. But our opponent trading 1-for-1 Wastelands or discard spells or whatever is just not going to keep up with what this card does. Mox Diamond, sure. So they're going to pitch a land here, play the hatchery, and this probably means a Orcish Bowmasters is in our future. We can make decisions about how much we care about that. So this won't tap for 2. We could play the Ancient Tomb and deploy Key and do One Ring stuff. We have the Expedition map as well. We're not under a lot of pressure, so we don't really need to go full guns blazing. We could just do Urza Saga stuff because we know they can't Wasteland it. That's actually something I quite enjoy here. So I'll play the Saga out. We're already quite far ahead with what the One Ring's done for us, so we don't need to crack the One Ring and say, let's hope they don't have Bowmaster. We can just hold this up. If they do play a Bowmaster, then we draw 3 cards in response. And then if our opponent is just going to keep holding up a Bowmaster, then they've wasted their mana for a turn cycle, whilst we get to develop out a couple of artifacts. This is now tapping for 2 mana as well. So we can play the Expedition map and crack it, or we can play a Manifold Key. Okay, so we're going for a Force of Vigor with this trigger on the stack. Sure, so our opponents had to pitch 2 cards to deal with 2 of our cards, but again, trading 1-for-1 against the One Ring just doesn't do the most. I'll deploy this Manifold Key then. And then let's see if our opponent wants the Bowmasters or not. And this is kind of smart, just adding this one here. Alright. Because if we tap this, they can just play the Bowmasters in response. Kozilet's Command. So we have 3 artifacts. So these are tapping for 2 each. So we can kill a Bowmasters quite easily here. So I guess we just fire in with this. If they have the Bowmasters, we can answer it now. If they don't have the Bowmasters, then we have a great time. Here is the Bowmasters that we played around. So I will exile target creature, and I would like some spawns, I think, here. Okay. So we can untap the One Ring and draw more cards. We found another One Ring for next turn. We can play out this Expedition map, but that doesn't actually help us out the most right now. But I'd rather have this spawn token or this... We're going to have to go to discard anyway. This makes us take 1 more damage. Being able to block here is probably quite useful this turn. So these tap for 2. They're going to tap for 3 next turn, so we're going to have 9 mana next turn. We can really just pop off. Alright, I think we're fine here. We'll ditch the Ancient Tomb. I think we can probably get rid of 1 Planar Nexus as well. And then... Like this is neutral, but with the Fleshraker it goes up on mana, so that's pretty good for us. I don't think we're actually doing it as a Saga game just yet. And we maybe want to keep the Planar Nexus so that we can filter into white mana if we need a portable hole. So I think it's the Saga that goes here. Again, our opponent is down to 2 cards in hand. We've got a full grip and the most powerful draw engine out there. Again, I'm just going to save myself some life here. When Bowmasters gets involved, like tiny points of damage can make a big difference. Chain of Mephistopheles, sure. So if you're unfamiliar with how this one works, reading the card isn't the best way to learn how it works. Essentially, if we try and draw additional cards, it messes with us. It makes us filter. We have to discard cards if we want to draw a card. And then also, if we don't have any cards, it mills us. But that's not going to be a thing that our deck cares about in terms of the not having cards in hand. Right, so let's play out Fleshraker. Let's tap this. Play out the Monolith. We'll yield to the Fleshraker triggers. Let's play out this Lotus Petal. Get some more triggers. This is cost neutral to play out because of the Fleshraker. Tap this for 3. We'll just play this One Ring out. We'll keep this new one. Gain some protection. Untap this Basalt Monolith. Play this Karn. We could go and get something spooky here. We could go and get the... what's it called? The Mystic Forge, or we could just blow up one of our opponent's lands. Or we blow up their Mox Diamond. I think I'm just going to go and get the Mystic Forge here. Because we've got the Planar Nexus, I'm going to use this Lotus Petal just to keep one additional blocker, just in case. This allows us to effectively draw cards without actually drawing cards. And Urza's Tower for next turn. That's not actually going to tap for that much mana. Do I want to pay 1 life? I think so. And there was another Urza's Tower underneath it. Understood. So we can crack the Expedition map, but that's kind of not a great use of our mana in my opinion. We should be able to kill our opponent next turn. They can attack the Karn. What do they have for 1 mana? I assume it's just Surveil Land. Yep, there it is. So they can attack the Karn. This doesn't get protection from with the One Ring. But this is why we sacrificed a Lotus Petal rather than one of these, just so we have more blockers so that we can make sure the Karn is healthy. We can drop a... what's it called? The Mycosynth Lattice next turn, and then our opponent just doesn't get to play any more spells. So what have they got here? Void Mirror. This is the card that I've been touting as being real good. However, we just beat this because we've kept this in hand to play around the Portable Hole. It does mean that our Karn has to go and get Portable Hole. So, do we even need to get Portable Hole right now? I don't think so. Yeah, no, this is fine. We can just go and we can play this out. This filters for mana. So minus this, say yes, go and get the Lattice. So the way this works is if no coloured mana was spent to play it. So we're going to make some coloured mana first. So we're going to spend this white mana on it. This locks our opponent out from the game, and then our Karn can just win the game whenever it wants. We can also just go and get an Urza's Saga here. We don't need to do that right now. This does make all permanents colourless, right? But our opponent can't play spells. We can't play spells, but we have the better board, and Karn can just plus on this and attack them for 6 over and over until they die. Alright, let's scooping it up. Yeah, I guess we just go to game 3. Like, there's an argument to bring in Dismember to beat the Orcish Bowmasters. That's the one thing that might be worth considering here. But it's just Orcish Bowmasters. We can deal with them with these sorts of things. We have the Portable Hole. I think we just want to go around them because the Bowmasters mainly just impacts the One Ring. Now, obviously, the One Ring is the best card in our deck because it's, you know, one of the best cards in the format. So it's a shame if this gets a little bit done in. But if we have a bunch of mana, then play the One Ring and can untap it a few times, it doesn't matter if they're getting a load of Bowmaster triggers because they don't go our face. We draw like 7 cards and then the game's over anyway. So I think we're okay with this setup. Alright, how do I feel about this one? We have the Pithing Needle for the Wasteland, big fan of that. We have Monolith, which is obviously a big jump in mana. So, yeah, I guess we keep this one. So, Thoughtseize on turn 1, taking our Grim Monolith can be a little bit awkward, but they might not do that. Can I have a land that is an Ancient Tomb? What about more Ancient Tomb? Do I want to pay 2 life to get my Pithing Needle in at the cost of not having my... I guess if we play the Ancient Tomb, we'll always have access to a 4-drop, right? Because we can, even if they Thoughtseize our Grim Monolith, we're still going to have these 4-drops we can cast off double Ancient Tomb. So I think it's worth taking the hit here. Pox decks normally don't clock you very fast, but the list with Hogak in can actually do some real work. Like if they have a Hogak draw, then all of a sudden you're getting beaten down for 8. If they want to spend 2 cards to Force of Vigor this, I can live with that. The other option here was to play the Urza Saga and get this ticking towards a key for us. Entomb. Okay. So this can enable the Hogak draws. Okay, just a life from the loam. But when Wasteland's shut off, I'm not super scared of this. They might have a Ghost Quarter though, and that would definitely be a spooky one because we don't have any basics. Alright, so they can get an Urza Saga back and start working towards a Pithing Needle to shut down our engines. But hopefully we can just deal with this pretty soon. So I feel like we're seeing... Okay, it's just a Smallpox. Interesting. Okay, good. What card are we discarding here? That's kind of a trickier one. I feel it's the Kozilek's Command. And then we lose our Ancient Tomb here. We are exposing ourselves to a potential Force of Vigor soon. So presumably they have to sacrifice the basic Swamp here so they can still have access to green mana to cast as Life from the Loam. Now we don't know what else they have in hand here. They could just discard the Life from the Loam as well to dredge next turn. If they do that and we find a way of making the Karn, so we can just get the Tawnos Crypt and wipe their graveyard, then it's just game over. Okay, they didn't discard the Loam. Right, deck, what have you got for us? We can just play out a Monolith. So they got 3 cards in hand. One of them is Life from the Loam. Do we think they have Force of Vigor in there? I don't think we necessarily get to play around it here. I think we just play this Monolith and pass. So if we'd have kept the Kozilek's command, we would have had the ability to maybe Grim Monolith for 1, which could have been useful. Okay, Wasteland, that's turned off because of our Pithing Needle. Life from the Loam, Wasteland, Urza, Saga, and Swamp. Sure. A Lotus Petal. Let's play this Urza Saga. Definitely no Force of Vigor over there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mana. So we could play this Mystic Forge. I think I want the Forge down. We've already played a land for turn. I think we'll get rid of this land. It's another land. So we're 1 mana shy. I was kind of hoping to hit something that would allow us to get this Karn in this turn as well. Like a key or another petal. So our opponent's probably going to be loaming to try and find a Boseiju. That's probably their best bet. Is this going to be a Witherbloom command blowing up my Grim Monolith, or is it just going to be... It is. Okay, they're going to blow up the Pithing Needle. That is better. But what do? They wasteland our Tomb or our Saga here. The Saga's eventually going to get us a key, so it's kind of spooky. We're also in a pretty good spot if we can land the Karn and go get the Tawnos Crypt to shut all this off. Right, they're taking out the Tomb. Do I want to draw this Urza's Tower? This is 1 mana, 2 mana, 3 mana. I don't really want to draw this Urza's Tower. So let's get rid of this. Alright, we have the Manifold Key. Beautiful stuff. So, play the key. Play the Saga. We untap the Monolith. Play the Karn out. Minus the Karn. Go and get Tawnos Crypt. This is why you run Tawnos Crypt. It's 0 mana, so you just get to do the thing right now. Play the Crypt. Pop the Crypt. That takes out the Wasteland and the Loam. We also have this Disruptor Flute, which is another option we had to take. But they can Wasteland us, but we still have 1 mana to just do our key nonsense. The One Ring, that's a pretty good one. Our opponent might have a Bowmasters over there. This pause feels a little bit Force of Vigor-y to me. No? Okay, so we have 3 mana here. So we can play the Disruptor Flute. What is in our sideboard that we might want here? An Ensnaring Bridge just keeps us safe forever. Interesting. Right, let's go for this Disruptor Flute. So there are multiple options here. We can name an Orcish Bowmaster since we've already known they've gone through 2 Wastelands. Or we can just name the Wasteland. Our opponent's thinking here, which kind of suggests to me they have a Bowmaster. If they play the Bowmaster, we can just name the Wasteland. If they don't play a Bowmaster, I think I'm actually going to name the Bowmaster. We don't know if they've got any more Wastelands in hand. They've used all the ones we've known about that I'm aware of. Here comes the Bowmaster. Yep. Our opponent saw the line. Pretty good. Yep, you're going to ping my Karn down. I guess this does name Wasteland now. And then this is going to plus on our Mystic Forge, I believe. The problem with that is it does allow them to smallpox us. We could just plus the Karn on nothing. Don't want to get smallpoxed. I really don't. If they smallpox us, this dies. They only come in at the Karn for 1. If we plus this, the Karn goes down to 1 anyway. So it's kind of like a wash either way. So we just plus it, no targets. So next time we can get this One Ring in if we want it. And the margins feel a little bit tight here. Our opponent managed to get a couple of card advantage spells off in the Life from the Loam. So these both come in at the Karn. If they've got another Bowmaster, then the Karn dies. If the Karn lives, then we can just make an indestructible 4/4 every turn. Now they have Edict effect, so it's not the strongest as it is in some other matchups. People often forget about the hidden mode of making your guy or making your artifact into a big guy to smash your opponent in the face with. But it's a mode that I often like. It can also protect itself. But again, Smallpox makes that a little bit spooky. So this Urza Saga is going to pop and get us another key, I believe. which allows us to just get way more mana. We could get a Mox Opal, but that's worth less mana than having just untapped with the Monolith. But the Mox Opal does give us the ability to one ring and blow up the Orcish Bowmasters this time. I wonder if our opponent has 2 Bowmasters, and that's why. And no, if they have a second Bowmaster, you fire it on the Karn here, right? I guess they can do it whenever, but they probably want to do it before we go to our main phase. So we should have the information whether or not we have to worry about our Bowmasters quite soon. So this can't get us a portable hole yet. But we could have one available off of something like a Tezzeret, maybe? A Eumidian Hatchery, sure. Right, it's a Smallpox. We only have 1 land, so not a lot of decisions to be made here. I'm glad we didn't do the play Mystic Forge as a guy plan. We do need to bin off this 1 ring, though. Manifold Key. That doesn't get us where we need to go right now, does it? Tezzeret. Okay, this time we have to plus on this Disruptor Flute and have this as a blocker. Our opponent's doing a pretty good job of constricting our resources, and we haven't really managed to play anything off the top with this Mystic Forge. Maybe we should have played the Karn first. Leveraged a bit more. Void Mirror, sure. That's obviously pretty useful. This is the hate card that I've been telling people to run instead of the Null Rods. This comes in at Karn for 1. So we have a colourless land. Is that all we need right now? I do think we just need a land. So I'm going to take this even though it doesn't quite get us where we need to go. What is the plan here? If we... Oh, yeah, no, I like this. We're going to turn the Forge into a beat stick. We're going to attack with it with the ability to untap it and block with it if our opponent doesn't see it. Weird little scrappy game we're going to be doing here. Now they're going to start making some construct tokens, which is going to be a little bit hairy for us. Another Urza Saga, yikes. Yep, Karn's going to take 1 here. Let's untap our Mystic Forge. And then we're going to take this card off the top. A K command. Again, this is going to be countered unless we can find some coloured mana. Would like to get this into play at some point, but... Okay, so how big are these? These are going to be 1, 2, and then the next one's 3, 4. So they're going to get significantly larger. Alright. Game's getting weird. I send in with a Forge. We can obviously untap this. But they're going to make a guy here. So we could end up trading our Forge, which isn't great for us. I think our opponent's going to have this one, you know. I think the Lone Pox is sort of well positioned. Like we've kind of seen all the different sort of games that happen here. We just have our card advantage engine and it just is impossible for our opponent to deal with. I guess we untap this guy now. Before they get a Pithing Needle. And then we've also seen that we don't get to do anything because they restrict our resources. This game was like, we set up our card advantage engine, but we got no card advantage off of it and it just kind of fell apart. Now, if we'd have had like a bunch of good stuff on the top with our Mystic Forge, sweet. But that's not what's happened here. Alright, so a lot's going to happen here, and it's not going to be good for us. So they can equip the Lavaspear Boots to Summoning Sick guy if they wanted. They didn't want to. So this is attacking Karn. This is also attacking Karn. Do I need to keep my Karn alive? So how do we get out of this one? It probably involves finding the right land. So we could block here, keep our Karn around. I don't like this, but I think we have to trade off our Mystic Forge. There's not much more selection we get off of this. We'll just let the Karn go. Let the Karn go, we don't get to block anymore. We get 2 looks at Planar Nexus if we do it this way. Yeah, I think we just have to let the Karn go. Don't know why they didn't equip the Lavaspear Boots though. You've soaked up a lot of damage for us, Karn. I appreciate your efforts. Underground Mortuary. At least they're not getting double sagas out of that as a saga. Alright, let's pay a life. Let's get rid of this Fleshraker. The 1 ring. Not really what we want to do. So we can untap this, but then we don't get to do this. We need to find Planar Nexus. That is not a Planar Nexus. There's one card down. Unfortunately, we are dead. Yep, our opponent managed to just get through and stop our resources. It was unfortunate that we had, like, if we'd have had a 1 ring instead of a Mystic Forge, then I think we win that match quite easily. As you've seen, that card sort of snowballs, whereas Mystic Forge is a bit more coin flippy as to whether it does anything. Alright, Losing to a Sweet Pox deck though, can't be mad. Let's go to round 2. Alright, this is our opener for round 2. What does it do for us? We have Saga Lantern into Tezzeret. Tezzeret doesn't have the most stuff to work with, but I think this is still fine. Right, Tezzeret is kind of not necessarily a must answer, but it's definitely an annoying permanent for our opponent to have to deal with. Okay, we can play this Urza Tower out. I can play this Lotus Petal out to make our opponent think twice about whether or not they want to daze. And then I will play the Saga Lantern. It's obvious what we're playing as soon as you see the Urza's Tower, really. Alright, we're getting a Force of Will pitching daze on the Saga Lantern. So we're playing out this Lotus Petal. We got our opponent to discard an extra card. This means our opponent is about to cast an Entomb at our end step, and then they're going to cast a Reanimate or Animate Dead in their turn, and then we're going to die to their big scary monster. Oh no, just another 6 sewers. They could do it all on their turn, to be fair. It's just a 2-mana play. We basically found the one deck in the format, or one of the very few decks in the format where we're not actually the bad guy, I think. Tamiyo. Okay, why were they so keen on getting rid of this Saga Lantern? Alright, goodbye land that we had. I think we're just going to Portable Hole here. Get out of here, Tamiyo. Nobody wants you. Certainly not on the other side of the battlefield. Okay, it's a brainstorm. So we definitely got away from having to deal with the Planeswalker. Now we do have Pithing Needle in our deck and the Disruptor Flute in the sideboard. So we're not completely stone cold to Planeswalkers. Another Wasteland. You got it. So we actually have quite a land heavy draw here. Okay, here is an Urza's Workshop. Do you have the third Wasteland? Some of these lists only run 3. 2 cards in hand. I wonder what they are. We haven't seen any sort of removal yet. We haven't given them a target for that. I quite like the Tezzeret here. Now, if I've completely misread and our opponent is playing Orcish Bowmasters, then sure. Alright, we're just going to go and get the value straight away from this Tezzeret. And what do I want here? I think it's just a Lotus Petal, weirdly. I guess we could get the Candelabra. So this taps a 2, we play the Candelabra. We still need another artifact, though, to get that working. I think I'm just going to take this Lotus Petal. And if they have a Bowmasters and they kill the Tezzeret, then so be it. They should have killed the Tezzeret in response to us finding something if they were going to do it. So I'm not expecting to have a Bowmaster. We've already made that assumption to ourselves that they're playing Reanimator. The way that they went after Saga Lantern felt very indicative of what they might be doing. Now, if they do have Orcish Bowmasters in their flex slot, sure, but that's not the most common. Sure, a Petty Theft. That's fine. That just gives us another thing to play off this Lotus Petal. So I'm glad we managed to get the Petal now. Sure, so they're going to attack for 0 and make a clue. But I don't know if they have enough time to leverage clues. So sort of fair tempo-y style decks don't always feel great into the Mystic Forge decks because we have so many bangers they need to deal with. And if just one gets through, it can feel like the end of the world. Well, well, well. Speaking of the end of the world, that's pretty tasty, isn't it? So, 1, 2. Am I playing into Daze here? Because we have a second one, I don't mind playing into Daze as much. The value of getting this going is really strong. If they daze us, it sucks. Yeah, it was Force of Will, sure. Do I want to take this one out? Is that important to me? Is it more important to me to take this out? Or is it more important to me to get another Fleshraker trick? I think I want to take out the Tamiyo. We know they don't have a daze, they would have used it then. We'll always yield to this Tezzeret ability. Let's play this thing they already know about. Tezzeret gets a bit more stuff going on. We don't have to minus this Tezzeret now. We can wait till next turn and have more information about what we want to get with it. Now, if they somehow kill this Tezzeret and we didn't get any value out of it the second go around with it, then sure, that's going to suck. But I think we're better off just taking a little bit more information and then deciding what we want to go with our Fleshraker. Our opponent's got some good sculpting off this Brainstorm, so we have to then play the counterspell roulette again. Okay, so they can have a daze, but they can't have a Force of Will. Good to know. A land here? Not a land. How important is resolving this Fleshraker? If we play this Fleshraker into a daze, we'll feel really stupid for not getting something off of this. Yeah, I think it's worth just cashing this Tezzeret in. It was good for 2 cards. So what do I want here? I think it has to be another Lotus Petal. So play this out beforehand in case they've drawn a daze here. It's the sort of thing that for 1 card they might keep in hand. Now, we're not going to get any immediate value out of this Fleshraker, but next turn it can start doing some work for us. If they kept a Fatal Push. That kind of be an interesting line, because Fatal Push, generally speaking, isn't great in this matchup. Obviously, when you're hitting a Fleshraker, it feels great. But like when your opponent's just got Karns and One Rings and stuff, then it doesn't necessarily matter as much. But we get to untap and start doing K commands things. And this can also check the graveyard. So we kind of need to get through this turn. All right, this looks like brainstorming in response to Undersea Sewers to put a monster in the graveyard. This gives them a really good chance to reanimate this turn, which is the one thing we didn't want to happen. If we make it through this turn, I think we win the game. If our opponent reanimates a guy, then we're in a bit of trouble. Oh, they didn't put a big monster in. All right, beautiful news. Okay, I think we are A-OK here. And they're definitely Reanimator, because only the Reanimator tends to play the double Surveil, because it's kind of like a build your own Entomb with a Brainstorm. Okay, shuffle off the Ponder, and now we can just start being mean to our opponent here. So we can attack with the Fleshraker. We don't actually need to do anything right now. Like if we play the Mystic Forge out, we run the risk of not being able to Kozilet's command, and the one thing that beats us is Entomb Reanimate. So let's just not die to that. Just hold up this K command. Even if they do nothing, we can still fire this off the end step. We're going to play around days here. We also want to keep our Lotus Petal in case we need coloured mana for anything. Alright, our opponent's just scooping it up. They've had enough. Fair enough. Let's go to the sideboard. So when I was watching the coverage, Tom Basketball, who's playing this deck, was bringing in the ley lines for this matchup. I don't know exactly what was coming out though. So we're going to have to work that one out for ourselves. Obviously, Saga Lantern and Pithing Needle both look pretty good here. They've got Tamiyo and Wastelands that we want to name with this. Maybe we get rid of some of the top end. But it always feels a little tricky to do this. I guess Candelabra is less exciting. Part of me wonders, do I want to get rid of a One Ring? Is that a bizarre thing to say? Perhaps. We could get rid of the Basalt Monolith. 3 mana is quite a lot for what that is. So if we get rid of one copy of the One Ring, we do have it to grab with the Karn, which is not nothing. I don't think we want the Ugin. We do want the Portable Hole. We do want all our keys, needles, Saga Lantern, of course stuff. What about Tezzeret? How useful is the Tezzeret here? It can go and find Portable Hole to deal with their answers, which I think is important. Same with the Karn. So maybe we are dropping One Ring, and maybe we just want to have 3 ley lines. I know what you're saying. Why 3 lanes? If you really want it, you really want it. But we don't want a mulligan to leyline. It's a thing that's nice to have on our opener, rather than something that we actually actively have to look for. This hand has a problem, and that problem is the Wasteland that our opponent might have. I think we just mulligan this, get something with a little bit more mana. Alright, we have mana. You can't say we don't have mana. Am I worried about Void Mirror being on our opponent's deck? I don't think so, because they're a counterspell deck. They're probably not going to have the Void Mirror, so I think I'm just going to put back this Lotus Petal and just keep permanent mana sources. And if our opponent's going for a more fair plan against us here, because they're expecting a bunch of graveyard hate, then this sort of slowish hand should be okay. So we can Urza Saga and just Ancient Tomb, which is also one of the attractions of this hand. Allows us to keep up the Kozilet's command on turn 2, and if we don't use it, we get a guy. So let's see if they wasteland us, really. If they don't wasteland us now, or like do some big reanimate shenanigans, I think we're in a really solid position. Now, Engine Explosives is a card that these decks often run, so it's worth keeping that in mind. And also, Ancient Tomb is going to do some of our opponent's work for them, but they're not like a super aggressive pressure deck. And it's not like we're playing against Delver, where the Ancient Tomb tapping actually is kind of very detrimental to our health. Whereas here, our opponent's going to be doing like bigger splasher plays. Like they're going to get their big monster into play. It's not going to be about little chunks of damage for the most part. Now, if they board it into the fairer plan, then it can be a little bit like that, but not to the extent of like Corey Steelcutter, Dragon's Rage Channeler style deck. All right, we're just pondering away here. They know we have this Kozilet's command, so they're not just going to go for it into the face of the Kozilet's command, unless they have something that can counter it. But then we do have this little slight conundrum we're about to face about whether or not we make another construct. So this is the time they can Bowmasters this, if that's what they have. Karn the Great Creator. So if we make this now, we don't get to Kozilet's command if our opponent goes for graveyard stuff. And that's basically how we lose this game. I'm just going to float off of this. They're going to go get a land to play around potential Pithing Needle. Makes sense. We can go and get a Pithing Needle now if we want to. Okay, so here comes the Bowmasters. As expected. So there might be a fairer plan here. So we can go and get the Soul-Guide Lantern. Or we can go and get something like an Expedition map. Pop it immediately. And get Planar Nexus going. I guess popping immediately doesn't seem the greatest. But we can... I think we just get the Expedition map, actually. And then we're going to let this mana burn off, I think. We could play this Urza's Tower. So that we have loads of mana next turn. And we're still holding up Kozilek's command if we need it. Now, if they have days, then that's not going to work. But then we have something to do with our mana if we don't need to burn the Kozilek's command. And this will also set us up for having, what, 6 mana next turn? We haven't taken that much damage, so I don't mind taking a few little chip shots off the Bowmasters either. Let's go on an expedition. I would like a Planar Nexus, please. A Glaring Fleshraker. That's a bit of a banger, isn't it? Alright, so we play this one. I would like to play a Glaring Fleshraker. We haven't really tested our opponent's counter magic yet, so this might not resolve. But it did. So this can check this. We can hold up Kozilek's command. Bitter Triumph. This feels like it's trying to bait us into using the K command. We're just not going to fall into that trap. We don't need to. They have an Archon of Cruelty over there. I don't really want that coming into play. Now, if we feel the need, we can take this now. Like in this turn cycle. Okay, so here comes a Reanimate. So now we go exile, card from graveyard. And then I would also like some more mana or cards. I think it's probably cards here, isn't it? But that's going to pump the Bowmaster. Do we care about them pumping the Bowmaster that much? We could also just get rid of the Orc Army token. That kind of feels a bit whatever. That's preventing 1 damage. We can scry 1. Or we can just get this guy. Maybe just get a guy. Target this. So I believe our opponent has the answer to this. I don't think they would just send it into the face of what we're doing. Unless their plan is to then just go again. But then we just don't do that anyway. You got days. You got force. They got force. Okay. So we're going to lose... probably workshop here, I think. So now we are on trying to get our... Oh, no. I was going to say try and get our Ensnaring Bridge going, but they take the Karn. That's so bad. Yikes. We really needed to be able to play Karn into Ensnaring Bridge here, because we're not going to survive 1 hit from the Archon. Well, this does help us survive hits from things. What land are we playing? Do we want to get this Saga running, or do we just want to have loads and loads of mana? I think we just want to have loads and loads of mana here. We're playing this out first in case there's like a random spell pierce over there. Alright, so we're dead as soon as they get to attack us, so we just don't care about this 1 ring. They can ping whatever, it doesn't matter. Alright, a Lotus Petal. Not really the one we wanted. We'll hold it in case we have Fleshraker turns. Our opponent's only on 8. So it wouldn't take a huge Fleshraker chain to get there. Looks like we're going to get a Traxxas this turn as well. Well, actually, that's not true. They've got no cards in hand, but they're just setting up in case it happens. This doesn't work because this is target, so they can't target us to lose anything to the ability. So here is our chance to win the game. Our opponent's got 1 mystery card in hand. We do have a Bowmaster, which does hurt our chances of 1-ringing our way to victory. This is pretty blank. We don't have any choice other than tapping this 1 ring. And we've drawn nothing, so we're dead. Alright. Let's go to the 3rd game here. I think I like how he's sideboarded, and we're just going to go in again. Turn 1 Soul-Guide Lantern really covers our bases here. But things can get a little bit sketchy for us from that point onwards in terms of wastelands. I think I will keep this one because the thing I'm most scared about is them doing their graveyard stuff. I don't think their fair plan beats us. So we can Soul-Guide Lantern on 1, hopefully Grim Monolith on 2, and that will also turn on our Mox Opal. I'm not going to lead off with the as a Saga because I want to be able to crank some guys out of this one, which we will be able to do. Wasteland. Alright. Goodbye, Urza's Tower. Ancient Tomb, maybe? Not an Ancient Tomb. I think we do have to play out this Saga. Do I play out this Mox Opal? I don't think so. I don't really want to have to cycle this Soul-Guide Lantern given how useful it is in the matchup. Thoughtseize, is that what's coming our way? It is. If I'm my opponent, what do I take here? Oh, sorry, my voice is going a little bit. I just had a bit of a coughing fit. Apologies if my voice sounds a bit wobbly. So I think this Thoughtseize is probably going to go after the Grim Monolith, because we do have Grim Monolith Key available in a couple of turns. This is also our third artifact for Metalcraft. So by taking this, it cuts us off of 4 mana, which is pretty darn good for a 1 mana spell. It's like a 1 mana Armageddon almost. Yep, the Grim Monolith goes. Alright, I think we could be in trouble. My personal preference for these Karn Forge decks is to run 61 cards, with the 61st card being the Caracas, so you just have a little bit more mana in the deck ratio-wise. Because like basically the way that this deck loses, if you think about it as loss conditions rather than win conditions, is the way you lose is if you can't cast your spells, basically. Do I need to crack this now? I just don't think we can afford to crack this. Even though I really want a card, I think we just lose the game on the spot. Come on, deck. Give me something good. Oh, dear. So we do get to play a Fleshraker if we want it. That's something. So we could try and cheese our opponent with this Misty Rainforest right now, which is certainly a choice. We could go and get Expedition Map. That's also a choice. We could play Fleshraker and then get a token off of it. If we go and get this Lotus Petal first. Alright, let's try and just get some stuff going here. Mox Opal with Metalcraft, please. Oh wait, no, we don't have Colourless. Oh, we do have Colourless mana, actually, yes. Sorry. That's what we floated. Please resolve. We haven't tested them for counter magic, but did have a double Thoughtseize hand, which is the sort of amount of permission that you would want to keep in your hand anyway. Alright, so we have a win condition on the board. If we can get our opponent's life total to like 7, so they can't reanimate anything, then we can pop the Saga Lantern for a card. Now, we don't really want to spend a Lotus Petal to pop it, but I don't mind tapping a Mox Opal for it. Although I'd like to make sure that we have Metalcraft if we pop the Saga Lantern. We can't cast these because it's colourless, and we don't have any second form of colourless mana yet. Shoulder's Edict, a non-token creature. Well, goodbye, Fleshraker. I was kind of hoping that you would stick around for a little bit longer. Karn the Great Creator. Okay, we can't play any of our spells. But it certainly feels like our opponent has got some graveyard stuff in hand. Because otherwise, by now, they would have played out like a Tamiyo or a Bowmasters or whatever. Like we're 5 turns into the game and they've spent 4 mana. So that tells us that their hand must have a bunch of reactive stuff. Or something giant like a Murktide Regent, I guess. So this is why this deck is so good. Because you can make us hold up this Saga Lantern and then they just slip a Murktide into play and it's like, yikes. It's proper catch-22 stuff. A Manifold Key. I will play this. This gives us the ability to sacrifice a Saga Lantern for a card without worrying about losing Metalcraft. We're going to take 6, but we are still on 20. So we've got that going for us. We haven't got a lot going for us, but I'll take it. 14 life it is. Urza's Workshop. This taps for 1 mana for each Urza land I have now, which is unfortunately just 1. This gives us the ability to... How much mana have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4. So we could just play a Karn. That seems a little bit sketchy. So we lose this and this. Next turn, we only have 2 mana. Okay, I think we're going to K command in our opponent's turn. So we can maybe try and back-to-back spells and tax any of their interaction. But considering they're not doing anything, they must have either a bunch of graveyard stuff or interaction. We're hoping that it's graveyard stuff, because otherwise we are finished here. Yep, another 6 here. Alright, let's go for making some guys, drawing some cards. Do I want to sacrifice this Lotus Petal? I don't think so. This is a pretty pitiful Kozilek command. Our opponent's pausing for quite some time, so it feels like this could go wrong for us. Thinking, this is so pathetic, I don't even care. Should I be caring? Who knows what's going on in our opponent's head. They floated blue and then decided not to. So this feels like a consigned to memory might be in their hand. Not sure how we beat that from this position. Oh, it's a daze. Do I want to pay for the daze? They still got 1 mana up here. So the question being posited now is, do I Sacrifice 1 mana just to get 1 mana back, but it's colorless mana. I think we pay here, and I hate it. I feel like we're about to get hit with something else. Alright, expedition map. No, we just need an actual land. We found a land, and it's going to make our lands tap for more. Okay, okay. Things are suddenly picking up slightly. Slightly is probably the operative part of that, but I'll take it. So this is 4, 5, 6 mana now. I could play this Karn into... No, I don't really want to play the Karn, do I? Because then we get done by a consigned to memory when we kind of need this next turn to get us the Ensnaring Bridge. Alright, I think this is going to be adding a bunch of mana here. This guy goes in there. Do I... I think I leave the Mox Opal up. Allows us to play around days. Or would they have double dazed our spell last turn? I don't know. They didn't counter this for x equals 1. Are they going to counter x equals 3? Obviously, they used a daze just to blow up our Lotus Petal, but they didn't seem to mind this spell resolving. There is the consign. Okay, I think we play the Manifold Key here. Is it the Manifold Key or do we crack the Lantern? No, we need to have the mana from the Mox Opal. So we've got 5 mana. We need 7 mana. Entomb. Okay. Yeah, this is what we call catch 22 here. Because if we pop the Saga Lantern, we will pump our creature by +2 and we die. So we can't actually afford to reanimate this. So we just have to let them have the Attractor, otherwise we are dead on board. And we have to hope this Attractor misses. There is a Force of Will. We are very dead. So Blue-Black Reanimator is the best deck in the format, and it's certainly showing it here. Now, the real clutch moment, I think, was in game 2, where our opponent had that last Thoughtseize, like the last card in hand, to take our Karn after they sort of dealt with our other things, because the Karn would have stabilized that board. Alright, tough league so far. Let's go to round number 3. Have you got magic cards you don't want, taking up space in your home, or do you just need some extra spending money? Well, my lovely sponsors, 3for1 Trading, are buying all collections, big and small. They are one of Europe's biggest traders and have a transparent process to sell them cards and make sure you're getting a good deal. Click the link in the description of this video to get an offer on your cards today. Okay. Interesting, but I'll take it. So this is a turn 1 Tezzeret. And potentially a Kozilek's Command. We are going to burn our Lotus Petal to get this Basalt Monolith in, but I think that's worth it. Because we don't want to be picked apart by a Thoughtseize when our action spells are like potentially at risk. Right, Ancient Tomb, Lotus Petal. Let's get this Monolith in. Get Tezzeret in. Untap this Monolith, I think. And then just be ready to have loads of mana next turn. We have an emergency K command if we need it. So we can always use this to pick off something like a Tamiyo. City of Traitors. Chalice of the Void, X equals 0. We don't care about that. And is this going to be a Chalice of the Void, X equals 1? We also don't care about that. Cool. Good to know. I think we are very far ahead. Our opponent looks to be playing mono-red Stompy. Another Kozilek's Command, you say? Alright, let's do this. Let's untap this. Add some more mana. Add some more mana. Sure, I just play this Ancient Tomb and add some even greater mana. Let's scry and make a bunch of spawns. Sure. So we're casting a 10 mana spell on turn 2 and our opponent's scooping it up because they see we're putting 10 mana into a Kozilek's Command. So the high rolls of this deck are genuinely obscene. I think Ugin is an interesting inclusion in this particular matchup, and I think I want these dismembers as well. What doesn't look good? We don't need Soul Guide Lantern here. Pithing Needle only stops their broadside bombardiers. That's not such a big deal. Do I like the portable hole here? It feels like it can just get snagged by a chalice really easily, and then doesn't actually get to remove anything. Which is why I think the Eye of the Storms blowing some stuff up is going to be better than having portable hole. And what is the last cut here? Do we need a Candelabra? How much do we want Pithing Needle? It's just for broadside bombardiers. Candelabra certainly looks worse underneath the Blood Moon effect, so maybe we take out the Candelabra. What does this hand do for us? Turn 2, Monolith, Tezzeret, other things, sure. Seems pretty good. We're not really going to be undone by a lot of our opponent's more average draws here. We don't really care about Blood Moon. We can even play out a Saga. If they do a Blood Moon early, then we just laugh it off and just have all the Sagas for the rest of the time. The Grim Monolith being a thing that can cast our Fleshraker. Okay, our opponent is on Naya Initiative. I got it wrong. Okay, so that slightly changes things, but not much, actually. Yeah, we still want the Dismembers that we brought in. Oh, wow. Our opponent just had nothing. Unlucky their opponent, I guess, but we'll take it. We've had a bit of a rough start, so I'll take the free win. Let's go to round 4. So this hand has 4 mana on turn 2. That's a pretty good way to play a game of Magic the Gathering, isn't it? I will keep this. So we go turn 1, Tower Key, turn 2, Kozilek's Command for 2, and just start sort of getting the wheels moving. Maybe that's going to be an interactive spell. Maybe it's not going to be an interactive spell. It's just going to be cards or card selection and guys for us. Tamiyo off of a basic land. I think we can conclude much from that other than the fact that our opponent probably isn't doing reanimate shenanigans immediately. So Tower, Key, and then we'll pass it over. So we can go for a Karn on turn 2 if we think that's going to be useful. We'll shut off Tamiyo clues, but I'd rather have a K command Daze than a Karn. So we'll have to see what our draw manifests and what our opponent does on their turn. If they flip this Tamiyo, then shutting off clues doesn't matter anyway. But this can find us an answer to the backside of the Tamiyo. But if our opponent like Force of Will something, they can then minus the Tamiyo and get back the Force of Will as well. And then they're going to have a lot of resources that we have to punch through. Now we have 3 things that kind of need to be answered, so we're not in a terrible spot. We don't know if our opponent's missed their second land drop or if they're just going to play it in the second main phase, but we'll see. It's a Ponder, so this could be digging for a second land. They could fire off a second cantrip afterwards as well. They declined to use Ponder's ability. A Wasteland, that's very good. Seems like the one thing that seems to be beating us is Wastelands. So what is our plan here? We have to play one of these lands. Which one do we play? We play this one, we can just draw a card from a Kozilek's Command. If we play this one, we can spike another Urza's Tower, but if we play this one, we can spike an Ancient Tomb. So both of these are 3 odds left in our deck to draw. This gives us a potential additional draw by doing it, though. So I think I play out the Ancient Tomb here. And I don't know if I want to be K-commanding just to draw a card here, but we'll see what our opponent does. If they sort of crank up the pressure in a way that we need to start getting things moving, then we can do that. But generally speaking, I think we're just going to hold on this. We also don't know what deck our opponent is playing yet. Brainstorm. So our opponent could be one of many different decks. So they could be Reanimator, they could be Tempo, they could be Grixis. A whole bunch of different things are available. Is this going to be getting a swamp? No. Okay. I guess I don't need to get swamps now. Sure, you can hit me with a Thoughtseize. So it feels like our opponent is more on the Tempo side, because the Tempo decks are more likely to fetch the snow-covered island or the basic island to begin the game with. Right, they took our Karn. Do I need to draw a card here? Given our opponent here, I think we do. Because they already have this Tamiyo ticking up. So I'll take just a redraw here. Because if we don't get something moving soon, then this is just going to draw them half a deck and we're going to lose. Alright, we found something. Let's play a Planar Nexus and a Grim Monolith. So by drawing the extra card, we did hit into the Grim Monolith, which is obviously pretty tasty. This is a very good target to counterspell. They've already been restricting our mana of the Wasteland. This can just restrict it further. This is a great opportunity for a Force of Will. Daze, not so hot here. Alright, they have the Force. Yep, that's obviously pretty bad news for us. So our opponent probably minuses the Tamiyo to get the Force or the Thoughtseize here. But we do have Metalcraft next turn for our Mox Opal. Alright, they're just plussing. That's really interesting. That means they must have some other permission. Okay, we'll play out this to get Metalcraft. Then we can play out the Workshop. And then we have choices. I think the Kozilek's Command is better than the Mystic Force. Oh, they're just countering that. Interesting. Very interesting. So, play this land out. We can play this Forge now, or we can just do a little Kozilek's Command. We know this is going to resolve. But our opponent gets another Force of Will next turn. I think this is the Mystic Forge. I think that just ends up giving us more things that contest a Force of Will if our opponent draws a blue card. Right, they're cracking the clues to see if they can find a Daze. They did not find a Daze. So I want to draw another Ancient Tomb. I don't mind having 2 more mana. But do we need to find action? They're going upstairs with this, so we do need to find action. Alright, what are we seeing here? A Ponder. This can try and find them into a Thoughtseize or something. I think we have to bin off this Ancient Tomb and look for more action. Manifold Key. Is that action? Doesn't feel like action, does it? Karn. That is action. Oh, the One Ring. That is also action. Lovely stuff. So this is... How much mana can we actually generate? Not a lot. This is 2, 3, 4, 5. So we can play the One Ring. We do have to tap this Ancient Tomb this turn, though. Cameo might be popping soon. It's a little bit spooky. We didn't have enough mana to play Karn and go and get Disruptor Flute. So let's try and dig with this One Ring. It's another One Ring. So what is the plan here? I guess we can untap the One Ring here. Draw 2 cards. Where are my Lotus Petals? Play this one out. Untap the One Ring. Draw some more cards. Oh, close to some of the things I wanted, actually. Do we play this one out so we can play out a Soulguide Lantern in case our opponent is Reanimator? Or do we save all these for Glaring Fleshraker and have a big turn next turn? I think we have to do our due diligence and make sure we don't die to our opponent having Reanimate next turn. So our opponent's going to draw 22 cards. A Daze. Okay. So we might be able to bludgeon our way through. See how many forces they draw. Because they only got 2 more forces in their deck, right? They might have some number of Force of Negation. They could also like Atraxa here and dig deeper and just make sure they can put things away. But this game isn't over. The One Ring is pretty close to the quality of drawing half your deck, to be honest. This is very good. This takes out a Planar Nexus. Or okay, they're going for the Saga. Okay, I guess it's kind of the same. This just means that we can top deck a tower and just have loads of mana, though. I don't really want this Kozilek's Command, but I also don't want to spend any more life into this Mystic Forge if I can avoid it. I'm going to go to 7. We do get to go again with our One Ring soon. A Grim Monolith, you say? Alright, I think we're going to draw a bunch of cards first. And then we can see what we're working with mana-wise. So this is tapping for a bunch. There's like 3 mana. So what is the play here? Play the Fleshraker. Is this worth a counterspell to you? Apparently not. The Monolith. Do they not have anything here? Like we did say that they got rid of a lot of their forces. So Expedition Map is free to cast here. Let's untap this One Ring. Okay, we've got some stuff going on here. Let's play this Lotus Petal out. Feels like our opponent is a little bit on the F6 side of things over there. Untap Grim Monolith. Let's get some more mana in the pool. Yeah, I think we kill our opponent this turn, don't we? I'm going to save this Lotus Petal just in case. So we're going to get 8 things and ping our opponent a bunch. We don't need any more lands, so these can all go on the bottom. I don't think we need anything apart from this Kozilek's Command. It won't let me do anything with this Urza's Tower, which is kind of weird. Alright, so we demo our opponent for a bunch. We cast another Kozilek's Command, our opponent dies. This is enough to kill our opponent, so we just do this. This means we can then also cast another Kozilek's Command in response if something weird happens. Alright, we managed to get the game, and I still don't know what deck my opponent is playing. So, weird. They did counterspell Soulguide Lantern. Something we're supposed to kind of hedge with some of these. I don't think that's unreasonable. I'm really unsure what we're supposed to be sideboarding out, though. Maybe it's a Mystic Forge. Maybe it's a Tezzeret. Tezzeret does find... Oh, maybe it's Candelabra, actually. Maybe Tezzeret does find our Portable Hole and Soulguide Lantern, which is kind of important. Maybe it's just one of these K commands. Let's try that. I don't think we can fit in all 4 ley lines. I'm not sure. I don't have a sideboarding guide to rely upon, and I don't really play this deck enough to know all the ins and outs. Let's mulligan this one. Okay, this seems alright against like a relatively fair draw that our opponent could have. So we can keep this. We have a lot of mana, which I like. We have the One Ring. We could get rid of a land. So we can get rid of like a Saga. And just lead off on Tower Expedition map. Are we going to get Thoughtseize on turn 1, or is it Tamiya or Ponder? Here comes the Thoughtseize. It's an Inquisition, sure. But we have the ability to play this game through an Urza Saga, rather than having to resolve spells. Okay, they took the Expedition map. Interesting. Here is our Urza's Tower. If they wasteland this, they know we have another one, so it kind of doesn't matter. But now they can wasteland and apply something to the board, like a Nethergoyf or a Tamiyo. Another Thoughtseize. One Ring, I think, is a take here. We don't know what's in our opponent's hand, though. That might change things up. Alright, they didn't want us to have a Fleshraker. Undercity Sewers. We'll keep an eye out and see if we get more information about what our opponent's doing. If they play a second Sewers, that gives us the information we require. Let's just play an Urza Saga game. Alright, not a Wasteland. Always a fan of not having to deal with Wasteland. I'll play a Tower. We're just going to ride the Saga. This is also going to get us a Saga Lantern next turn to kind of check that box. So we need our opponent to not reanimate a giant monster this turn. Are they getting another Surveil land? No. Is this just a Brazen Borrower to attack? Yes, it is. Sure. Again, I still don't know what deck our opponent is playing. It's either Tempo or Reanimator. So a Bowmasters can pick this off. We'll see if that's what happens or not. No. Okay, good. So Solgai Lantern. We'll take away an Inquisition. We'll play out another Urza Saga. Then deploy as Lotus Petal, so our creature is attacking for 4. And then we are winning this race. This is one of the scary things about the Karn Forge deck. It has so many different levers it can pull. It's not just like, oh, we don't beat Null Rod. It's like, well, we've got this Fleshrakers, or, you know, we can do Tezzeret stuff, or we can do Urza Saga. Okay, so we're not going to get all the way with this Urza Saga. Sure. We got 8 power out of the first one. This can only block creatures with flying, so it's just going to be attacking us. That makes sense. I wouldn't mind drawing a mana source here. An Urza's Workshop. Yeah, it's a pretty good one, isn't it? So this is tapping for 3. So if we deploy the One Ring right now, this will pump our team and allow us to get in for 10. And possibly find us an artifact to just kill our opponent. Science Memory, sure. Attack with these guys. Our opponent's at 4, so we don't even care if they play a Murktide, because one of these will be lethal anyway. Sometimes we just do Urza Saga things, and that's fine too. A Brainstorm. So next time we can Tezzeret, go and get an artifact as well if we want one. Alright, we win the game, and we still don't know what deck our opponent was playing. I think they're playing Reanimator, but I genuinely don't know. Alright, 4 rounds down, we are 2-2, and the 2 we lost were 1-2s. They weren't like complete stomps, but they could have gone either way for us. They were like clutch turns where the entire game turned for us to lose them. So let's go to the final round and see if we can get a positive record on the board. Interesting, but we do have a Grim Monolith, which is always something I like to have. I will keep this. Our opponent is a well-known Goblins player. They do play other stuff as well, but they're certainly one of the people that burns a torch for Goblins, and I love seeing them do well in tournaments. Whether or not they're playing Goblins today, I don't know. We'll find out though. Bloodstained Mire. Certainly Goblins adjacent here. No Lackey is good news for us. I believe Urza's Tower is the best land we can play here. It gives us the spike of Planar Nexus on turn 2. Let's get Candelabra in. Richard Port. Does feel Goblinsy. So they can tap our lands down, but it's not going to work very well for them because we have Candelabra. What a weird little interaction we've got ourselves going there. So this turn, what are we doing? We're playing out the Grim Monolith. I'm playing it off of a Saga or a Workshop. I think it's a Saga. This can get us a key in a couple of turns. But yeah, being able to blank the Rishdam Port is pretty nice. Now this means we're not using our Candelabra to untap our big mana lands, but when we don't have big mana lands, it's just we get to completely blank the port. This is some old school magic right now. Candelabra of Tawnos versus Rishdam Port. Wasteland. Goodbye Urza Saga. Are we getting ported again? Because they already know that we're just going to get around it. I guess it's porting the Candelabra is what it actually is doing. All right, I like getting something on the board here from our opponent's perspective. 3 mana, 4 mana. We play this. This then taps for 2. A Grim Monolith, you say. So we untap this land. Play Grim Monolith. And we can do a little Kozilek's command here. No, we can't because... Yeah, if we do a little Kozilek's command here, it doesn't do anything because we can't target ourselves due to the One Ring. This is actually a little rules snafu that happened in the finals of the Eternal weekend. It didn't actually end up mattering on the outcome of the game, but they targeted themselves with a Kozilek's command when they had One Ring protection, but this was because their One Ring had 2 counters-ons, and it was like the end of a super long weekend, and these sorts of things happen, and they were just trying to cut to the bit where they get the trophy, because that game was already won at that point. So this doesn't deal us damage. Are they going to port us? Eldrazi Temple is very confusing to me. I don't know what's going on over here. I'm going to draw some cards. Rarely seems like a bad thing to be doing with our time. Alright, I'll play this Urza's Saga. This makes our Urza's Workshop tap for more mana. Let's get Grim Monolith down. I'm just going to go big with a Kozilek's command for 9. I would like 1 Planar Nexus, but I don't want 2. So that can go on the bottom. Mystic Forge allows us to just play all of these things, right? This is so much easier to resolve in paper than it is online. So we don't need a second one of those. Another Kozilek's command is always fine. This is free to cast. This is free to cast. So these 2 can go on top. We kind of want Karn. I guess we go One Ring, then the Planar Nexus, then the Karn. No, then the K command, then the Karn, then the Tezzeret, then the Grim Monolith, and then the Forge. I hope I've put them on the bottom way. I sometimes misclick when I'm resolving Kozilek's command. Let's see if I've misclicked this time. I have misclicked. Cool. That's always fun, isn't it? Oh dear. What is wrong with me? Again, I don't think it matters. We're like a million miles ahead here. Play this one out. Yield to these triggers. Like, yeah. Like, we're so far ahead there. Why do I keep putting them on the bottom when I mean to keep putting them on the top? Alright. So, some sort of goblin thing, but there's also like Eldrazi land. I'm so confused. So, like, obviously Eye of Ugin... Sorry, the Ugin Eye of Storms is pretty good against, like, goblin-y type stuff. But what's it doing against Eldrazi? Not a lot. I don't think we need a Soul Guide Lantern. I do like the Pithing Needle. Candelabra. If they're running Wishdown Ports, Candelabra does feel pretty interesting to me. Is it Basalt Monolith? Maybe we can trim on this. One more cut here. Is it just a K command? Probably. What does this hand do? Has a horrible time into Wasteland. I'm just going to mulligan and try and get a little bit more mana. It doesn't look like our opponent's like a blisteringly fast deck. Alright, I'll keep this one. What are we putting back here? I do like the Petal quite a bit. Maybe it's the Karn? We'll try putting back the Karn here. So the idea is we're trying to play like a lower curve game here. So we can go like Fleshraker, and then we can get Metalcraft to turn on our workshop as well, and we're going to just have stable mana, and then just assume that this combination of cards here can eventually get the game won. We have a lot of payoffs on our deck. Our opponent's mulligan to 4 as well, so it's going to be rough over there for our opponent. Scalding Tarn, a basic mountain, a beautiful Onslaught mountain. We've got a card here that I've never seen before. Stadium Headliner, 1/1, mobilize. When this creature attacks, create a tapped and attacking 1/1. Oh, so that's the same as the white guy that makes it so you can't cast spells. Sacrifice this creature, it deals damage equal to the number of creatures you control to target creature. Okay, so it's a guy, so kind of like a 1-mana 2/1. Alright, let's go and get this expedition map in. So we're playing this one out first because this is the one I don't care if it gets Wasteland as much as this one. This gives us access to white mana if our opponent's got some sort of Void Mirror type action. It also gives us the other half of what we probably want to 2 to 4 with our expedition map. Counter Souls, naming Goblin. Makes sense? Conspicuous Snoop and a Lackey on top. Cool. So we can play this one out. We can play out a Fleshraker and do nothing with it. We can play out a Tezzeret and do nothing with it. Or we can crack this expedition map and have a really good turn next turn. I think we are on Team Expedition map. Is there an argument for playing out this Lotus Petal so in case we need to do an emergency Kozilek's command? I think that's something to think about. I'm not going to do it because I'd like to maximize my Fleshraker. and I don't think our opponent's got that many scary things going on. Got power like 1/1 guys. Now, if they've got the black tutor guy, whose name I can't remember, Boggart Harbinger, I think it is, they can put Kiki-Jiki on top of their deck. This can copy itself a bunch of times, and the last one copies the Kiki-Jiki. Sorry, not the Kiki-Jiki, the Harbinger, and then puts the Sling-Gang Lieutenant on top, and then they kill us. Alright, them playing this out means that we don't have to worry about that. Big fan of that. Okay. Goblin. Are they going to play out this War Marshal or not? I used to love this card back in Standard. Just a great guy. Believe it or not, aggro decks would just play this guy as a guy. Different time. It's pretty good at sacrificing stuff to Gargadon as well. So they sacrifice his Warrior, we sacrifice our Expedition map, so we're a little ways away from getting any Urza's Workshop mana going. Urza's Tower, please. So we play this one out. We deploy Fleshraker here. We deploy this. We yield to this. So we can try and fire off a Kozilek's command for no real value here. Then we just have to let that guy go. There's always a possibility that our opponent would do that. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we can play this Karn the Great Creator. Or we can kill this Conspicuous Snoop. I kind of want to kill the Snoop. So we're going to make a bunch of guys and we're going to kill a creature. So this is Colourless, Colourless. 1, 2. And we have a lot of mana for next turn. We have some decent things to do with our mana next turn as well. We know our opponent is just drawing the Mog War Marshal. So they can attack and get it for free here. Because we're not going to block and it's just 1 damage. We know what's coming out of it is something they can cast anyway. Yep, there is the Mog War Marshal. Such a weird goblin taking this on to me. I don't know. Alright. Planar Nexus. How much mana do we actually have? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this can go and get us a Mystic Forge. I think that's the best thing we can get here. Does mean we are losing our Eldrazi Spawn token. They do get to kill our Karn. But we have another one. So this will gain us 3 life. And alright, they're letting this die. So this will gain us 2 life, effectively, and it will stay alive. Because, alright, what have we got here? Is this Matron? Matron is pretty scary. Okay, Broadside Bombardiers. I can live with that one. So Karn is definitely going to die this turn. So he can attack us for 4. And then fling something at Karn. They could fling the Lackey at Karn. But they might want to hold this in case they draw a Matron. They're attacking us with everything, which suggests to me they're going to fling the Lackey at the Karn. Which obviously... Okay, they're just flinging a token just so we can't tutor with the Karn. Kozilek's command. That obviously does a lot of things. I'm going to activate the Karn on this Mystic Forge. And then we're going to exile target creature and make a bunch of guys. Get out of here, Broadside Bombardiers. Want to play a Tezzeret? Is that worth doing? We can bash our opponent for 4 if we want. Is it worth doing any of these things? I think we just hold and then we just lock them out with the Lattice next turn. This is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we have exactly enough to tutor with this one. Right, what are you playing out here? Broadside, okay. So can kill the Karn. We know we're drawing a land, so I'm okay to make this block. If we get the Broadside Bombardier off the board, then I think we're okay here. So they probably just throw something at this Karn. Let the Broadside Bombardiers go. Goodbye Karn. Goodbye Broadside Bombardiers. Manifold Key. Does that make any difference here? I don't think so. 3, 4. Get the Karn. Minus the Karn. I think we go and get the Lattice. Alright, they're scooping it up. So we get... Let me just tab back in here. So we get the Lattice. We spend 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mana. So we just have to fade our opponent, not drawing a Goblin that gets put into play with a Lackey for 1 turn. That's all we need to do. And then from there we can just play all our spells and win the game. So we finished with 3 and 2. And the 2 rounds we lost, like I said, there were some key turns that if they just go slightly better for us, like the one where our opponent thought to use the Karn out of our hand in the Reanimator matchup. I think there was one game versus Pox where I needed them to brick for 1 turn and they didn't. So we're pretty close to winning those matches as well. Obviously, this deck is very powerful. It just won like the biggest Actually, I don't think it's the biggest Legacy tournament of the year. But certainly one of the big Legacy tournaments of the year. I can't remember how many people were at the Eternal Mania event. It was a similar number, I think. But anyway, yes, it was close to 1,000 people at this tournament. Massive Legacy tournament. There were 3 copies of Karn Forge in the top 8. So clearly it's one of the most powerful decks. There's also 3 copies of Blue-Black Reanimator as well. So it kind of shows you where the format is at right now. And I hope we showcased what this deck can do. This isn't my personal preference for this deck. I do like to have that one more mana source. Because like I mentioned earlier, this deck feels like it has loss conditions rather than win conditions. Because if you just get to play the game, you will eventually win because what we're doing is really strong. So the way you lose the game is more important. So getting like all your lands blown up is certainly one of the ways that that can happen. That's basically the games we lost, right? Sometimes your opponent can hit all your payoffs. But now the deck is so rich in payoffs with K Command, One Ring, Mystic Forge, Karn, Fleshraker, Tezzeret. It's very hard to keep it down. You know, you've also got the Sagas, which are a really good payoff too. So it's just very difficult to keep this deck down. So I think attacking its mana is the best way. We also saw Void Mirror out of, I think it was the Pox deck. And that's a card I've been touting for a while as the best answer to this deck that you can run. And it certainly was horrible for us to play against. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this one. Once again, congratulations to Tom Basketball for winning the the Eternal Weekend event in North America. We've got 2 more Eternal Weekends, one in Asia, one in Europe. Those will be after the next BNR announcement, so we're curious to see if anything from this tournament alongside the last 15 weeks of data will impact what they do with this format. Hopefully they will, and maybe we won't see the One Ring win any tournaments ever again because it won't be legal. Alright, thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and if you'd like to become a YouTube member, it's cheap and it helps me out a lot, so consider doing that. Alright, if you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths as well as 3 tiers of support. A low cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed turbo depths guide that is updated every month as well as regular articles, and lastly the higher tier gives you all of the above as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.